You're watching a TGM production. Hello and welcome to Tom Mason the Interviews. Yes, I am back with a series inspired by the Michael Parkinson series where he revisits his old interviews, but I am doing it in a new fashion, because it's new, or depends on what you're watching. To be fair, so I can't really argue with what you're doing. So it might not be new, might be new, it might not be new, but this is new. Today we are cracking on with an interview. We've got more interviews in the pipeline, which isn't really a pipe or isn't even a line. It's more ones and zeros if you know your binary code, because I don't. But we shall crack on. My guest today is best known for writing funny ha-ha comedy. It's one and only Rebecca Bain.
Hello.
So we shall start at the very beginning because one woman, Julie Andrews, once said it was a good place to start, and so far she's not been wrong. How did you get into the industry I call media?
Um, I think that my very first kind of footing when I felt I was proper anyway, was when I got my first credit on a show that was called Newsjack. So it was an open submission show. There's been a few different sorts over the years for Radio 4. There's it's now I think DMs are open is the closest
Yeah.
version that they have. But at the time it was a topical show called Newsjack, and I remember my Northern Soul was very happy because I got a sketch on about Sean Bean dying in every film he was in, but unfortunately the actor's northern accent made it very clear that he was from London or from the south. So it was a fun memory to have, but I just the main takeaway was just the accent work
Yeah.
mostly, to be honest.
Yeah.
But that was my very first credit, and discovering you can get paid for being funny is quite a drug, so it just kind of kept going from there.
And I think that Sean Bean in himself, I don't think he minds anyone saying this, but it's his personality that can easily be used in any comedy form. Because obviously there's I can't remember his real name, but it's about the playing a version of Sean Bean, but it's the Sean Bean that's always dressed up ready for Game of Thrones, even
Yeah,
though he might be on Dictionary Corner on Comedy Countdown,
yeah.
as I'm now going to call it. But but one of the interesting things about Sean Bean recently is he's got a new podcast out called Birding with Sean Bean, where
Yeah,
and now my problem is it doesn't seem like there's a video version, whereas Tom Allen is gardening, but you can see he's gardening, so that makes sense. You can listen to it, but you know that there's evidence that he's really doing it. But Sean Bean walking around the country going, "Oh look, it's a bird." I think you need to be able to see it to believe it.
we'll just take your word for it, shall we, Sean? Yeah,
Yeah,
I don't think.
yeah. And what's really funny is I heard it on another podcast, and he was confusing people because not everyone knows that the real word for bird watchers are birders because they're
Mm,
not doing it for competitive reasons. A twitcher is someone that's really annoying that wants to check off all the names of the birds they've ever
right,
read on the
sure.
list. Yeah, and twitchers are also people that sit around playing video games online. They're also
True.
annoying. Not all of them,
Over
just
competitive, yeah.
yeah, yeah. Uh, that's wildly off topic, but hey ho. Uh,
No, love
but
it, love it.
but getting back to the non-Sean Bean topic, but
Oh,
what is it? One of the things you've worked on that is fascinating because and we've previously mentioned this in words already, but it's had a sort of life where it's not found its identity to begin with, and then it's thought, well, I think I know what type of show I am now. But
mm.
what was it like writing a sketch for the interest in terms of development wise of the show, but interested in how it's outlasted itself and whether or not it's still on. But what was it like writing a sketch for the wonderful DMs are open?
Oh yeah, I think do you know the at the end of the day, a show that has that open submission
Yeah.
format is always going to be so important for newer writers but you're absolutely right. I think it's the only one that didn't have the kind of
Yeah.
established like topical format, and the kind of turnover that comes with a topical show
Mm.
of we need stuff pitched this day,
Yeah.
it's getting recorded this day, it's got to go out this day to keep
Yeah.
it fresh
Yeah.
in line with the news. Whereas DMs, I think, if I remember correctly, at first it started not directly topically, but they were looking for kind of more zeitgeist
Yeah.
things where it was, yeah, where it was broadly people were talking about climate change, so
Mm.
it's still relevant to what people are talking about, but it's not a specific story in the news that week that you're making fun of.
Mm.
And I think that was an interesting angle to kind of branch it out,
Yeah.
because I do think topical stuff is a specific skill.
Yeah.
I think that's the main thing. And moving away from that was potentially a very good idea to
Yeah.
open it up to people that, for one, don't want to read the news,
Yeah.
which is so valid.
Yeah.
I often have to take a bit of a break between series of topical shows that I write for,
Yeah.
just to give my brain a rest. So yeah, people that maybe aren't ready
Yeah.
to engage with that, it's not where their speciality is. They
Yeah.
have sketches that they wrote ages ago that they would still really like to submit.
Mm.
So it really broadened who could submit, which I think was definitely a good idea.
Yeah.
And the way it has evolved, I think overall is very positive,
Mm.
and they've had amazing talent on performing wise as well. Yeah, it'll just be really interesting to see. We've not heard news of it coming back,
Yeah.
but I think over the years, because there's been several different iterations of
Mm.
an open submission show for Radio 4 where
Yeah.
so many people have gotten their first credit,
Yeah.
even if Newstrack doesn't come, sorry, even if DMs are up, CM, case in
Yeah.
point, even if DMs doesn't come back,
Yeah.
something similar will replace it, because there'll always be an appetite for newer voices, and
Yeah.
always be, yeah,
Yeah.
that's the hope anyway,
Yeah.
fingers crossed. But I don't see a situation where a show like that wouldn't come back.
Yeah. But I think that the BBC is sort of in a leeway at the moment because on their BBC Writers Opportunity page on the BBC Writers Room website, I know it quite well. They've got DMs are open, but they've still got it. Looks like it's still open, if you will. So the
Mm,
previous series that was on, they never actually say what year anymore. So they've got rid of what year that the thing was for. So there's probably a lot of people still trying to submit things that don't realise it's not actually on anymore
that's
because
really interesting.
because
Yeah, I
they've
wasn't aware
not
of that.
changed it. So I had to because I saw this thought, oh, that's interesting. Oh, that date's and everything. Then I had to look on their social media profiles to find out
Mm.
that there was a previous series that's already ended. And so I just think that if it was to come back, I think that they need to fix that to make sure that no one's accidentally wasting their time doing some excellent work and it getting nowhere.
Yeah, I think there's been there's been a real skew towards like the digital side of things kind of coming arm in arm with radio and with the commissioning process.
Yeah,
So when the series was on, they did always say, look at our social media for
yeah,
updates. And I'm not sure if it still says that on the website or not, because it has been a wee while since I've looked at it.
yeah,
But yeah, I think the reliance on the social media thing,
mm,
especially a lot of people migrated away from Twitter.
yeah,
I don't know if it is counterproductive. Having said that, there are formats that are open year round through the
yeah,
BBC. You've got like Get In or Get It On or something like
yeah,
that. Yeah, so there are other ways. So if you just discover it, you can still send it in. But
mm,
yeah, you are right. I think website wise, it can kind of stagnate a bit because they only really get updated when new programming goes
yeah,
out. So yeah, there's an unfortunate sense of irony there, but
yeah.
yeah, you never know. Hopefully it will. Hopefully it will.
And why do you think that there isn't as any or of not many open submission shows on TV? Why do you think that it's more a radio thing?
I think it's a really good question. And I think radio's always trying to champion itself as a pipeline to TV that is neither a pipe or a line, as you say.
Yeah,
Um, and I think with the technical side of things with sketch, down to it's a boring answer, but
yeah,
down to budget for sketch. I mean, at the end of the day, sketch shows aren't generally aren't getting made as much on TV as they used to. They seem to be coming back in dribs and drabs, which I'm loving to see. But I think there's an aversion to risk that comes with the amount of money that it takes to
yeah,
produce a sketch show on TV, to be perfectly honest.
yeah,
And I think a combination of those things of like newer voices can kind of prove themselves
yeah,
on radio. The budgets are smaller because all they need is that cast and the amazing soundscapes and the music, and they've got a sketch show,
yeah,
which is great. So yeah, I think by design, it lends itself more
yeah.
naturally. Yeah, to be honest.
Yeah, and you mentioned that sketch shows are coming back in drips and drabs, and I've
Mm.
mentioned this several times due to the fact that I'm so confused why they thought that it was a good idea. Not because it was a bad
Mm.
idea, due to the fact that it was, or if you really want to think of it logistically, probably impossible. But there's Beauty Oliver have a sketch show, or I think they transformed it into something else. I think it was called OMC, and they
Mhm.
had a sketch where this bloke, and he's from one of the islands, I can't remember where, but he rings up his brother. Now his brother, who also speaks Gaelic, is Donald Trump. So he's having a
Uh-huh.
conversation with his brother in Gaelic, but it's like it's basically the same bloke just dressed up as Donald Trump, going, "Oh yes, oh how's mother, how's father? Oh, I'm just here doing the world," but it's like in Gaelic, and I thought that's not logistically possible. But
Mm.
I like the fact that not many people will have seen it unless they're watching BBC all of them. But I do quite like the fact that the BBC is still making a form of a sketch show, even though it might not be possible, like dancing rats at an opera concert, where they're just dancing around in a box and the audience are watching people dancing dressed as rats, which is all quite odd, but it's still good. Do you think that it's good that the BBC, even though it might not be the not necessarily the version of the BBC that everyone watches, it is still a good thing that a version of the BBC, like BBC Edinburgh or BBC Scotland, are still trying to make sketches, even though they might not be as mainstream as like Mitchell and Webb are.
Absolutely. I think if anything, it kind of ties into your previous question. If anything, I want to see more of it. And as
Yeah,
much as I love Mitchell and Webb, it would be great to see people, commissioners and channels take a chance on sketch that doesn't rely on a name from
yeah,
20 years ago.
yeah,
Again, it's that aversion to risk that's kind of going on at the moment, and
yeah,
with the budgets and things like that. And an amazing thing about the Mitchell and Webb sketch show is that it did bring on newer voices to support, and it had a writers' room format. So
yeah,
while it did, the Mitchell and Webb of it all opened a gateway for newer voices, a lot of the time it will still be about that name. Whereas, yeah, I would love to, if anything, it is great, and I would love to see more of it,
yeah,
especially because so many comedians get sketch comedians or character comedians are growing their
yeah,
base online as an alternative. But it shows that shows
yeah.
a proving ground for sketch now as well. BBC Scotland in particular, you've got Zara Gladman, who had an
It was.
amazing
Yeah,
sketch pilot from BBC Scotland, and unfortunately it didn't go to series.
yeah,
Um, I'm not sure why. But I guess it still shows that it's only coming back in dribs and drabs,
yeah,
unfortunately, and it could go further.
yeah,
But yeah, that's my personal opinion. I grew up on like the sketches of the noughties, and like
yeah,
yeah, Mitchell and Webb and Armstrong and Miller,
yeah,
and like old things of Smack the Pony, and yeah. So I just sketch is amazing, and there should be more of it.
yeah,
But we'll take what we have, I guess. As long
yeah,
as that doesn't go away and more comes, I'll be
yeah.
happy.
Yeah, and you mentioned a really good a sketch show pilot there, but what's interesting about that is that it's been, I don't know what's the award called, but I think it's the British Comedy Guide Award. It's been
Yeah.
nominated, and that's what's really interesting. And it happens quite a lot when you get cancelled things, and in that same year they're winning all these awards. And it's sort of it's annoying that it's got to that point when they've been cancelled and now they're winning
Mhm.
the awards. And I think that do you think that that might sway companies to try and get these things back if they're winning so many awards?
I think you'd like to think so, but unfortunately, I think it's an indicator that, oh, this sounds so cynical, and I really don't want it to be, but unfortunately, I think it's an indicator of pure merit and how good a show is, unfortunately, right now
Yeah.
in the current landscape is not the only factor in commissioning.
Mm.
It is risk, it is budget,
Yeah.
it's a lot of the time it is name recognition, and it's a strange thing of old media
Yeah.
versus new media because Zara is a fantastic example again. She has a massive following online. She
Mm.
sells out live shows
Yeah.
in around Scotland, in Glasgow, everywhere. She has a fantastic following, but it's not a traditional following necessarily. I can't speak. I wasn't in that commissioner room,
Yeah.
but I do think hers is a really good example, and she has spoken quite honestly
Mm.
about the process as well. That yeah, unfortunately, pure merit
Yeah.
and yeah isn't enough right now, but that is why people go online,
Yeah.
and that's the thing, like if they know their stuff is good enough, they have things
Mm.
that they want to do,
Yeah.
and yeah they've built up, because so many of the characters that Zara did started online, like the
Yeah.
woman who's secretly a rat, Eileen. These are online characters, and it showed that they could translate to
Mm.
TV, but unfortunately, I just don't think everyone in the industry is quite ready for that
Yeah.
necessarily. I would love to be proved wrong, but yeah, unfortunately, I think that's where it stands. We still want them to get the awards. It still
Yeah.
means that it still means that their stuff is great and that things can come back in different forms,
Yeah.
but I guess we'll just watch this space and hope for the best for the people that definitely deserve these nominations and
Mm.
the awards because they're creating amazing stuff.
Yeah, and before we move on, I think another really interesting sketch show to highlight due to the fact that it's quite fascinating because the way I stumbled across it was I knew the act one of the actors that was in it. So it's a show called Deaf Funny, and you can only really find the first series now, and it's a
Mm,
sketch show where it's all they're all most people in it are deaf. Ben Rufus Green and Jeremy Arrowsmith are the only hearing people in it, and they're normally the butt of the joke because there's normally an interpreter and things go wrong. And the greatest sketch of all is where this woman, she's just at the bar, and he walks in, and Rufus Green, and she's like, "Have you ever?" She's trying to say to him, "Have you ever dated a deaf person?" And she wrote on her screen, "Have you ever dated a dead person?" And he's like, "Oh," and he just like runs off because like, and then she realizes what she's done afterwards. And it showcases that even though there's a barrier, you can
mm,
still have an excellent sketch show. So you've got Jim Smith playing a politician, and they have like a really bad sign interpreter
mm.
doing it. So that's like not technically topical, but was topical at one point or another. And it showcases that there is still talent out there. Do you think that that's a good thing that the people like the deaf community are also showcasing that they can do sketch, not just everyone else?
Absolutely. It's fantastic. And I think I wasn't aware of that one. I'm gonna have to look it up. I'm aware of Gemma. She's done amazing sketch work her entire career.
Yeah.
So having her on board, I think, is a fantastic thing. But yeah, I think it just goes to show that there is, when it comes to sketch, there should be, and I don't think there is such a thing as niche humor.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
in theory, like someone might be able to write that off and go, "Oh, well, that's only for deaf people. Only deaf people would get that." It's
Yeah.
not true. Seeing I mean, there's nothing that brings me greater joy in life than seeing a concert and the
Yeah.
sign interpretation that comes with a
Yeah.
song.
Yeah.
When Rihanna was at the Super Bowl, because
Yeah.
they are living their best lives in that moment.
Yeah.
I've never seen anyone so
Yeah.
happy to be at work,
Yeah.
and I work in comedy. Like it's
Yeah.
it's the purest thing,
Yeah.
and I love seeing it. And yeah, I mean, the stories that get told will always be universal. And at the end, funny is funny.
Yeah.
The dead person thing, that is a short, sweet
Yeah.
sketch. That is fantastic. And it's yeah, it you could bring it into a different situation where it's an autocorrect in a
Yeah.
text. It doesn't have to come from a deaf person.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think the fact that that show exists is amazing.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think maybe we should get more niche with it,
Yeah.
and maybe that's a reason to quote unquote justify,
mm,
these shows getting made
yeah,
is if we dig deep into them. So yeah, no,
yeah,
I'm all for that.
yeah,
Let's get more niche,
yeah.
honestly.
And for anyone wondering where you can watch it, I'm not promoting that. Well, I am promoting,
Good.
but I'm not sponsored by them. But it's Lumio, because I'm going to pronounce it wrong. That's why. Lumio TV, formerly known as the BSL Zone. The first series is available. I don't know why the other series aren't, but the first series is cracking. And
Mm,
before we definitely do move on, I do think that what's really interesting about sign interpreters is I've when Eurovision's on, I know that like people are trying to watch Eurovision and going, oh, funny, funny. But I see a lot more people these days willing to turn on the sign version, especially on the BBC, because they want to see that boat that's got really like glitter on it. Because he's like
yeah,
dressed, he looks like he's going to a concert himself, but
yeah,
really he's in a room. He's in a room elsewhere whilst the boat's singing about coffee,
yeah,
or macchiatos in the actual word,
yeah,
and
yeah,
that makes it more fun because it's not just accessible for the people that need it, but it also entertains other people, like for instance, the TV critic Scott Bryant. He thought it was hilarious, and that meant that I thought it was hilarious because I wouldn't have ever thought to turn it on because I thought I'm just watching the stupidness on TV. I don't really need to see it. But now I thought, oh, I might actually do want to watch. I'm more too into it, like more into it than the artist on stage.
it's yeah, it's so funny the way it can work out like that. It's also an indication, I think, that broadcasters are taking it seriously as a necessary thing, in that it's not just a box ticking
Yeah,
exercise. It's a very necessary part of
yeah,
broadcasting for accessibility. And yeah, so why not? Why
yeah,
not hire people that are going to
yeah,
be so enthused
yeah,
rather than doing like auto-generated
yeah,
subtitles, you know? It's yeah, I love it. I want
yeah,
more of it. And
yeah.
yeah, if we can get sketches of that, amazing.
Yeah, and I do think that what makes it even more interesting is that a lot of Doctor Who is on the iPlayer, a lot of classic Who, like more of the early black and white 60s stuff.
Mm,
Majority of it has got sign interpreters on it. And you can because some of early Doctor Who was quite ridiculous, and there's elements on it as like there's always a female screaming running away as a stereotype, and it's watching the sign interpreter for whale of a time going, they think it's ridiculous. It's black and white TV. They're trying to make it as serious as possible, but they
yeah,
can't handle themselves because they know that it's not like that anymore.
yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
I think,
It's brilliant. I do love it. And if there's it's just like anything else. If there's
yeah,
something inherently funny in it, ride that wave and keep making it funny, and
yeah,
yeah, dial it up and yeah, make it ridiculous. That is the core of sketch comedy.
yeah.
It's just like anything else.
Yeah, and as we move into another realm of funny funny work, and in a sense of I recently saw a clip that where I don't know what he's called, but the Radio 4 presenter had asked
Mhm.
David Lammy if he'd seen said program, which I'll name in a minute, and David Lammy had made it clear he hadn't seen it. So what occurred to be 30 seconds of the Radio 4 presenter explaining the joke about himself, the joke that's been put on him to him, and he's laughing, but he's laughing in a nervous way, going, I don't really agree with that. So what's when you're working on this show, what's your workflow like when you're working on the brilliant, recently seen on the Royal Variety performance, Dead Ringers?
Oh yeah, Dead Ringers is an absolute pleasure to work on. It really is. It's one of these kind of full circle moments for me because I was a very uncool teenager who listened to
Yeah.
a lot of Radio 4 Friday night comedy. It's a strange thing thinking about now because
Mm,
I think they were quite ahead of the curve in turning the radio shows into
yeah.
podcasts. Because this is a time capsule and it makes me feel really old. So please forgive me for a moment, 21-year-old Tom. But I had an iPod Classic,
Yeah.
and I used to download the Friday Night Comedy
Wow.
podcasts.
Mm,
And I used to listen to them when I
mm,
was like 14, 15 years old. And it was still the Now Show as it was,
yeah.
RIP, sad times. And then the news quiz, which is obviously still on, and
Yeah.
it was Dead Ringers,
Yeah.
and it was fantastic. And
Mm,
so I've written for all three of those shows
mm,
now in my career, and that was a lovely full circle moment of, oh, Teenage Becca would be very,
yeah.
very happy to hear
Yeah.
her name in the credits for this.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, it's been an amazing
Mm,
experience. But yeah, those writers' rooms. it's really it's so voice forward, I would
Mm.
say, is okay, what is the weird thing
Yeah,
about this person in the news,
yeah,
in on TV, in this realm? What is the weird thing? Let's center in on what that weird thing is, and that is all we're gonna do.
yeah.
And it's been an amazing thing kind of watching that develop over time as the news changes, like
Mm.
what they've discovered about like Kemi Badenoch, someone that became a more central figure in
Yeah.
the news. And yeah, really, and I can't take credit for any of this. I was just in the room.
Yeah.
Yeah, where we were just drilling down on she is boring, but she's also really weird. And just bringing both of those things
Yeah.
together, it's just like the monotone voice. So that kind of process is such a joy to be a part of.
Yeah.
And I think, but if we're centering in on something that much, if the person
Mm.
if the person that it's about
Yeah.
doesn't necessarily get that about
Yeah.
themselves, maybe doesn't have a level of self-awareness, let's be honest, the figures that you make fun of, if they don't have self-awareness, are the best
Yeah.
ones.
Yeah.
It's funnier if they aren't self-aware at all, which thankfully is the case for a lot of people in the
Yeah.
public eye right now.
Yeah.
Um, or for better, I say thankfully, let's say for better or worse,
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
thankfully, I take that back. But
Yeah.
yeah, so when, because it's far from the first time someone's gone, have you seen this impression of you on a topical show? I imagine it happened with Spitting Image, and
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
much more offensive with the puppet.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and so yeah, it's always a strange thing when a presenter asks someone that, because not only does it take a level of self-awareness, it takes a level of having a sense of humor about yourself, which
Yeah.
again is quite rare.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um,
He was quite awkward about it. You could
oh,
see that it wasn't a genuine laugh. It was a nervous laugh going,
of
what's he
course.
about to say? Oh
Yeah,
no.
just like, ooh, yeah,
Yeah,
it's like every muscle in their body is
yeah,
tense, but there is a laugh physically
yeah,
coming out of their mouth.
yeah. And what makes it interesting, in a sense of not just from the situation, but it's about that because the presenter is trying not to laugh and he's saying it, it shows that not only is he thinking the situation he's in quite funny because he didn't know what's about to happen, but also it proves that that sketch, that impersonation, and that sense of working is really funny
Yeah,
outside of the context of the show. So if you remove the show from it and just have those lines, it's still funny. And do you think
yeah,
that that sort of helps to make sure that what you're doing is on par with most other realms of work because that even if someone was just reading this, they would still find it as funny as if they were listening to like let's say an impersonator like Rory Bremner as a broad example doing the impression.
yeah. I think the great thing about Dead Ringers and shows of that ilk is that the writing and the
Yeah,
impressions go perfectly hand in hand together,
yeah,
because you're absolutely right, a lot of the writing does go out with the impression
yeah,
itself, but at the same time you're listening to this week is not a funny sentence
yeah,
when the impression of Andrew Neil says
yeah,
you're listening to, I can't even do it, it proves the point, like the
yeah,
way his voice cracks every single time he
yeah,
says it will never stop being
yeah,
funny. All he has to do is say that line. You
yeah,
know where you are, you know what's coming,
yeah,
you know who is speaking, and it's funny.
yeah.
And all he said is, "You're listening to this week," or and so like all credit to the performers,
Yeah,
absolutely. But I think if you have that sketch background
yeah,
anyway, you want to hit the gag rate.
mm,
You want actual jokes
yeah,
in there. You don't want to rely too heavily on the impression. We
yeah,
know what the performers can do.
yeah,
We know that their capabilities, they've been performing on that way longer than I've ever been
yeah,
a writer. So you absolutely trust that they can deliver whatever you write. And so in a sense, you sometimes for me, I'm writing the gags for myself.
yeah,
And the introduction of a presenter or a character always
mm,
comes with
yeah,
a joke about that person. So
mm,
it's like, hi, I don't know, hi, I'm Fiona Bruce, the type of that would kiss you goodnight. You know, like
Yeah.
so like there's always that introductory gag more often than not.
Yeah.
And so yeah, the it is that perfect harmony of amazing impressions and wanting to get a
Yeah.
high gag rate in there that kind of meshes it together. And
Yeah.
also, yeah, so that yeah, that's why I think it kind of it can withstand that,
Yeah.
but it will always be better hearing it.
And
They'd be better off playing a clip rather than recreating.
yeah. And I think that what's really good is that anything can be satirized. And I think that one of the greatest things, and I don't know if anyone's actually attempted because it's so out there, is that the greatest person that could be satirized because of his point of view is Piers Morgan, because he once said he's creating his own TV channel. He then said that he went on to the Late Late Show in Ireland to say that YouTube's now the future and was taking it off TV onto YouTube, right?
Mm,
Still the same thing. It's like, and then from a U-turn, not that long after, he then got his show that was on Talk TV that went on to Talk TV YouTube, now on to Channel 5. So now
yeah.
he's had Piers Morgan Uncensored, now back on TV. And it's a full circle moment. It's about that he went on to Irish TV to promote the thing and said YouTube the future. That's why we took it off TV. It wasn't anything else. We want to be the pioneers of TV on YouTube, and then went back to TV not that long after doing a highlight package of Piers
Mm.
Morgan Uncensored. And he's the right type of person that could be satirized because no other person, probably Richard Branson, could ever make a U-turn that dramatic in that short period of time.
I think it's such a strange thing with satire where the line is, I
Yeah,
think a lot of the time, because I mean, you've explained that perfectly, and
uh,
it's such an insane and ironic and funny and Shannon Freud a moment because I
yeah,
think we love laughing at Piers Morgan and enjoy his failures.
yeah,
And so, my opinion, that whole thing doesn't need satirizing. There is nothing that we could write
yeah,
that is funnier than what he did to himself.
yeah,
And so we as satirists, all we can do really, again, in my opinion,
yeah,
someone may disagree. And that's another great thing about a writer's room is that you'll have a lot of different interpretations, a lot of
yeah.
different things coming in. My personal thing, all I would want to do is go, look what he did
Yeah,
and just indicate the facts.
yeah,
Like all you have to do is that, and then maybe a quip on the end.
yeah,
Like that doesn't need a dead ringers going over. It
yeah,
really doesn't. It just needs a comedian to go, have you seen what Piers Morgan did? And
yeah,
then a quip on the end going, next thing you know, he'll be saying that the next big thing is radio, you know?
yeah, yeah,
That's
and
all you need. It's
yeah,
beautifully simple because it's so funny
yeah,
by itself.
yeah. And ironically, Talk TV does have its own radio station as
Of
well.
course it does. Yeah.
And yeah, yeah. But it's on the same app. If you download the Virgin Radio app, you get Talk TV in that, even though it's not your choice. You didn't choose to have it.
No.
You get given it. But what I find interesting because of Dead Ring has been on for so long,
Mm,
and and you've said several times a comparison to Spit and Image. Do you think that when Spittage wasn't on, and I've definitely been in that situation where someone says, "Oh, it should come back," and then it does come back, and then it disappears again, and then now it's back on YouTube. Do you think that it was? Do you think the Dead Ringers sort of helped pave the way of going? Well, there's no spitting image. We'll stick around. We'll do something that's not as similar to that, but still might have the same appeal as to that. Or do you think that it was a good thing that there was still room for that type of satirizing because it meant that the audience that were really desperate to get spitting image back can still enjoy Dem Ringers because it's on a similar playing field. It sells a similar audience that would have watched
yeah.
spitting image.
I think, you know, I can't pretend I knew Bill Dare very well, but I worked with him on and off for a few years, and I think he doesn't mince words. He didn't mince words. He didn't hold back.
Mm,
So if anything, I would say Bill would have never tried to make Dead Ringer's spitting image.
yeah,
He never would have. He never would have. I think he would have been like, I know what I want to do,
yeah,
and I know, and after the proof, after a few series, finding the groove of it,
Yeah.
he was like, I've got good instincts with this. I
Mm.
know what I want out of it, and it's clearly translating to the
Yeah.
public as well. So I don't think he was looking elsewhere. I think he was looking at what he was
Yeah.
working on, and that's where his strength always was, and that's why Dead Ringers has will continue to go on
Yeah.
because that voice was so strong. Because Spitting Image is far from the only show like that that
Mm.
has been on and satirized and had the impersonations and then fallen away over
Yeah.
time. I mean, you had Colshaw and Stevenson for a few years in
Mm.
the I believe the late noughties.
Yeah.
Great show. Two people that have
Yeah.
been in Dead Ringers are still in Dead Ringers. Um, but it didn't, for one reason or another, it hasn't lasted as long as
Yeah.
Dead Ringers has. And there was, I can't remember the name of it now, but I did really love it. It was on ITV again in the noughties, and it was kind of grotesque caricature similar to Spitting Image, but it was animated.
Was it Newzoids?
No, but again, it was something
Yeah.
heads, and I cannot remember the name of it.
Oh,
And
well,
I'm
yeah.
only going to think of it, and I don't want to Google it while
That
we're recording because
that's
that's
annoying as
so
well. I
professional.
know what you're on about now. I can now see it, but I
I
can't
can
remember the
picture
title of
it.
it.
I can picture
Yeah.
it. It was because the a highlight for me was because it was under the when Cameron was president,
Oh yeah.
and just it was sort of president, prime minister. Oh my
Yeah.
God, David Cameron as president. Sorry.
Same thing at the end of the day.
Bleh. Oh, what a thought though. Horrible. I'm really sorry I said that. But yeah, so different channels have had different
Yeah.
iterations of a satirical sketch show
Mm.
with amazing
Yeah.
impressions that have never quite lasted as long. And I
Mm.
don't know, again, if that was with the falling trend of sketch generally, it might
Yeah.
have something to do with it. But I think Bill was never seemed to be
Yeah.
preoccupied with what other people were doing and
Yeah.
trying to measure up or be that. I mean, obviously, Spitting Image came back
Yeah.
for BritBox, I believe, and
Yeah. That's
a great thing about that was that it became a TV vehicle for a lot
yeah.
of writers who had all of that
Yeah.
experience writing for Dead Ringers, people that had
Mm.
done the BBC staff writer, or as
Yeah.
it was the bursary job, wrote for that, and so it was a great vehicle for
Mm.
people that had written for both. Um, so I think you can absolutely say that they have run
Yeah.
hand in hand in a lot of ways,
Yeah.
but I don't think that was ever the priority from what I could garner about
Yeah.
Bill and how he worked.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, but it's a very special thing, and there's obviously a reason
Yeah.
why it stayed around for so long.
When we talk about Dead Ringers, what's interesting is when it had that brief period on TV,
Mm,
and I think that one of the things that's still sticking in my mind about it was when John Culshaw, who might I add, regardless of his work on Jane Rogan, is excellent at doing impersonations.
yes.
Especially, I've heard a lot of good words from his colleagues, and he is very hard to track down. He's a very busy fella.
Mm,
But I was doing a documentary a few years ago, and I was spoke to Jim Trelaw, who plays the Third Doctor on Audio. He
yes.
played John. He's the voice of John Pertwee, but I think he's doing it so long now. His own voice is now just John Pertwee. He doesn't need to put on the impression anymore, which I don't know if it's a good thing or not. But I thought it was really fascinating.
Hmm.
It depends on what he sounded like before. But he had said that John Coltrane was brilliant, and he is. But what my favourite sketch on the TV version is he's playing Tom Baker dressed as the Fourth Doctor, going on the London Eye.
Uh-huh.
And I don't know whether or not everyone else around him were in on what was going on, or whether or not it was one of those hidden camera type things.
Yeah.
But he just walks on doing the impression whilst the London Eye starts moving. And he's still going because he's doing his job, and everyone else just stood around. And I thought that's brilliant because it's like because you watch a lot of hidden camera stuff of that time, thinking, is this real?
Yeah.
Are they real? It's like when you watch Elf, and none of the people in that scene of Elf were any the wiser than regular people,
Yeah.
not knowing that he's being an idiot. But I don't know whether or not that's the case, and that's what makes Dead Ringers really interesting because on radio it's this incredible thing. When you transfer it to TV, it had all that scope to do what it wanted to do and
Definitely.
make sure that if you listen to the radio version, you weren't just listening to the same like breaking news. If you were breaking the news is slightly longer on TV, but technically it's technically the same. And there might be odd bits on TV that have been added in because it's a lot later night slot than what it is on radio, but it's
Yeah,
technically the same thing. Do you think that that's why Dead Ringers is a successful, not just show, but also like I'm gonna call it a franchise
I
to
think
help
you
the point,
can.
but
Yeah.
call it a franchise because you can watch those two different versions and see them as two different shows.
Yeah, I think you definitely can. It's it's an amazing thing that happens again with the radio to TV pipeline that does exist. There's so many examples of it. Um and yeah, if you've got that amazing foundation in radio that is reliant on voice, sounds, and great writing. Like you can't rely on visual
Yeah,
elements. You have to have sharp, good writing. If you set that foundation in
yeah,
radio and then you have stuff that you can then build around it in
yeah,
TV, those are some of the most timeless shows that we
yeah,
have in British comedy started that way.
yeah,
You've got like the League of Gentlemen, obviously
yeah,
started live, went to radio, went to TV. Mighty Boosh was radio.
yeah,
All these things that we think of as having fantastic visual elements also have amazing writing that can
yeah,
carry by itself. And so I think, yeah, if you have that solid foundation, you can then go very ambitious
yeah,
or go very different with the visual elements because they're brought in afterwards.
yeah,
You know what you have works. And so you can get a bit weird, you can get a
yeah,
bit experimental. And then, yeah, a lot of the time it means that it can forge its own identity. And so, yeah, you can absolutely enjoy it by itself. I had the Mitchell and Webb sound
yeah,
CDs.
yeah.
Again, very uncool teenager.
Yeah. Well, what's interesting about that is that a few years ago, I can't remember the year now, which is quite annoying. I interviewed the brilliant QI elf, Alex Bell, right?
Oh,
And he had told me this story, and it stuck with me because it's like you can, because I've interviewed a lot of people and I've got my own experience in life. You can sort of see the similarity. So when he was at university, he would go on a cycle ride listening to the news quiz.
yeah,
And it's the fact that there's you can sort of just see that there's these very small things that you wouldn't know if you were outside you wouldn't notice that
yeah.
they all link. But a lot of people, is what you're saying is that a lot of people have this sort of similar experience of when they were younger, they were listening to XYZ program thinking they're the weirdos. And I think that that's what's interesting. In my life, well, at one point, I pretended to listen to Radio 1 only because the only thing that I could understand about Radio 1 was innuendo bingo, because
Oh,
that was
yeah.
the only thing that was quite fun. Or the fact that it was odd that there was YouTube people on radio. My father listened to Dan and Phil on the radio, and then I found them on YouTube. It was an odd sort of period of
Right.
time when they thought that was what was supposed to be the hip and trend thing.
The next
Uh,
big
the
thing,
next
yeah.
thing, like let's get these famous people and let's get them on the radio, but let's film them so when you're watching the film version, you're getting a lot more out of it than you would do on the radio.
Yeah.
But I think that having Radio 4, having this long string of not just comedy but also the Archers, because it adds into that realm of if you were weird, if you thought you were weird enough to listen to the radio, it became obvious when you were the only one listening to the Archers, because the
I
Archers,
drew the line at the Archers. I
oh,
never listened to the
oh,
Archers as a teenager,
yeah,
so I
I
have that
think
at least.
yeah, but I think the Archers is quite it's incredible due to the fact that no other show has an actor retire at 99 years old, but the Archers does. But why? But I think, do you think that when you hear other people's sort of journeys into comedy, not just writing, but all aspects of comedy. Do you think that you notice some similarities from your journey into the world of not just TV comedy, but also radio comedy?
Oh, definitely. I think we're all absolute nerds about it.
Yeah,
Like, the thing, like, it's the strangest thing because you can listen to loads of music
Yeah.
and yet have no ambition to be a musician.
Yeah. Yeah.
But there's something about, yeah, we all, well, in my experience, we know our stuff. We know
Yeah.
we have shows that we can pinpoint
Mm.
when we knew we wanted to get into comedy, and
Yeah.
a lot of the time it is when we're kids,
Yeah.
and it's stuff that wasn't even necessarily for us,
Yeah.
and we discovered it. Like my grandparents had an audience with Ken Dodd
Yeah.
video,
Which is
and
brilliant.
it was fantastic, and it's only a PG, so it's definitely suitable for kids.
Yeah.
But yeah, we it was the same like 10
Yeah.
videos of like actual like Disney films and
Yeah.
like, and then we noticed my nan and grandpa's videos, and they were comedy
Yeah.
things, like classic comedy. They had a best of the two Ronnies. They had,
Oh,
and we just
brilliant.
said, "Can we watch these?" And
Yeah.
my nan ummed and ahed, but because they were only PGs, we got to watch them.
Yeah.
And just there's something. Again, I'm saying all this because I'm a massive nerd for
Yeah.
comedy. There is
Yeah.
something so special about
Yeah.
comedy that you
Mm.
watch these shows, and I think when you're younger, you're like, how do they do that?
Yeah.
How do they
Yeah.
create that laughter? Even if you like, I don't think when I was like 9 or 10, I got the fork handle sketch.
Yeah.
But there's
Yeah.
something about you hear an audience laugh and it sticks with you. And I
Yeah.
think that that is true no matter what realm you're in. Like
Yeah.
you're saying, you could be in development for it, and there's still, if you chat for long enough,
Yeah.
there is a comedy
Yeah.
show that they could talk about for hours.
Yeah.
I'm talking hours.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I think,
Trust,
yeah.
trust me,
There's
I've been in those situations.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It's my main point of connection because I don't really enjoy networking.
Yeah.
It makes me quite nervous.
Yeah.
If I can find that, I
Yeah.
know I'm doing okay and I
Yeah.
can stick around and it's not too bad. It's like
Yeah.
it's almost like a comfort blanket. Yeah, we're all massive nerds for
Yeah.
comedy. All of
Yeah.
us, every single one of us. Because I think at the end of the day, if you want to get in to do this
Yeah.
professionally, at least to begin with,
Yeah.
or potentially for a very long time, you do it because you love it.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
do like that's the only thing that's going to carry you through for a really long time is
Yeah.
that you love it and
Yeah.
you don't want to stop. So yeah,
Yeah.
we're all massive nerds,
And
and I love
I think that you mentioned there about being able to connect on a level of, oh yeah, there's that really interesting. I think for me, what really goes downhill is when they say, oh yeah, they watch, like, for the example I can give is someone says, oh, they love Taskmaster. My problem then is that I then go, have you seen all these different international versions? And then it ends up being something, a conversation more like, right, okay. So I didn't need to know there was a Spanish version that lasted one series that didn't really work. And but what's interesting, and it's a very side topic, but when you watch a concert on TV, like let's say Andre Roux is a good example. He's outside. It's an outside venue, and he's
it.
on there singing. And that's what the Spanish Taskmaster was. It was an outside venue
Oh,
where there was loads of people watching. There was six Spanish contestants on stage. There was like one of the earliest female Taskmasters. It didn't work at all, but it was the fact that it was on the open arena, which is the only time you can ever say I've been to a concert. I was just watching Taskmaster in
yeah,
Spanish. But I think that that's what's really interesting is that you can find someone that's into similar things. So I was in an environment where I didn't really want to be at this place, and then someone said, "Do you want to play this card game?" And I'm like, well, there was not many. It was a place where it was a scouting event. I'm gonna use that term. So there was like not many grown-ups there that were male because it was a mixed event where it's like I was just 18. And
sure.
so I'm at this thing, and they said, "Oh, do you want to play this game?" And I'm like, "Oh, well, I don't really want to have to go to bed." So I played this game, and it turned out it was a Monty Python like card game. And at that point, I thought, "Wow," because I didn't know these people were into Monty Python. It was a side thing, and I found the thing, and there's one card, and I don't know what it's called. I can't remember what it's called, but it's where the rules change every time you put a card down. And so
Right,
one of the rounds, if you get the card, is if you place it down, you get bonus points if you sing a song.
right.
So, so
This is so funny. Is it a Holy Grail one specifically?
no, it's just Monty Python in general. It's the whole
Oh,
of Monty
okay.
Python. There's a Doctor Who one. There's
I
a
was,
Star Trek one. There's many of them. I've got the Doctor Who one now.
of course.
of course. But the Monty Python one, it's like the songs we had that, and I knew these like really niche songs. And I'm not a great singer, so I wasn't. I spoke out the words, but it's like someone did it, and I was confident. There was someone that didn't know about Monty Python, knew about South Park. It turned out later on, but didn't know anything about Monty Python. And there was all these people that were a lot older than me, probably closer to 50 than me. I don't know their actual ages, but I ended up singing the Eric the Half a Bee, which is la da dee, 1, 2, 3,
Yeah.
Eric half a bee, because it's based on the sketch, and he wanted to buy something with half a bee, and
Yeah.
John Cleese said it was called Eric the Half a Bee, and it never made it. It was never a TV sketch,
I was
from
going to
what I
say
can
that
gather.
is niche.
And so I was just sat in this table. I was at the end of it, not really wanting to be in this place, not really wanting to be there, going la dee dee. Oh, and I'm like, and everyone else is staring at me, going right. And I barely knew the rules, so I was just coasting this thing. But it adds to the point where you didn't know that that was that connection, and then you you were more friendly with, even though you weren't really, and they knew you weren't happy in this situation, but you're more friendly with them because you found that base level connection. Do you think that
Yeah.
that's what makes comedy so important, not just to the industry, but just in a general, more world context? Because it means that people can connect a lot easier, even if they're not happy with what's going on.
Absolutely. Comedy is so important for connection in innumerable ways.
Yeah.
I mean, there was a period in the noughties where, thanks to comedy, people were speaking exclusively in catchphrases to each other. And I'm talking your
Yeah.
average people were just saying garlic bread to each other and
Yeah.
increasing laughing. It's absolutely, I think genuinely comedy, yeah, comedy still has the ability to bring millions of people
Yeah.
around a TV on Christmas Day, which is a rare thing now.
Yeah.
Gavin and Stacey
Yeah.
finale was special and
Yeah.
people were invested and they went to watch it get recorded.
Yeah.
You know, like these comedy has an amazing ability to bring people together, and all they have to have in common is that base sense of
Yeah.
humor.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's there's so much that grows around it. There's entire social media pages dedicated to
Yeah.
a specific
Yeah.
comedy series, or even if you aren't exactly on the same page, like,
Yeah.
oh, I prefer the US office, I prefer the
Yeah.
UK office.
That's a debate.
Yeah, you can have the conversation and it's
Yeah.
still a point of connection. It's
Yeah.
absolutely, and that is true about a lot of things,
Yeah.
but I think comedy does transcend because
Mm.
there's strange things that happen sometimes where I think people are sometimes surprised that I like a particular comedy show
Yeah.
because I'm a woman or because I'm at the time I was under 30 or I was under
Yeah.
25, whenever it was. I think people like my dad's friends were really surprised that I was a big Monty Python fan.
Yeah.
And then they put it down to, oh, that'll be your dad's influence, is it? I was like,
Yeah.
well, dad, dad had the DVDs,
Yeah.
yeah, but I don't like it because my dad likes
Yeah.
it, you
Yeah.
know? And
Yeah.
like, yeah, and all this kind of stuff, like you get your influences from all over the place. You
Mhm.
get them from your parents, you get them from your friends,
Yeah.
you get them from online, and it is a massive point of connection. And I think sense of humor, yeah, doesn't have an age,
Yeah.
doesn't have a gender, doesn't have any of that. Like funny is funny, and what
Yeah.
you find funny is yours, but you can find it in somebody else at the same time.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's an amazing point of connection, making
Yeah.
people laugh.
And I think it's really fascinating because when you look at like for me, because I'm so into like not just the one area but just generally TV in general,
Yeah,
you can sort of watch Monty Python and go, you can even if you can't, if you didn't know what year it came out, you can sort of pinpoint what decade, because there's certain sketches where there's fire and you can see the other colours that were attached inside that camera, and they're the type of things that if you were weird, I'm not calling myself weird, I'm calling myself genius. But but you can sort of see that it adds other elements to it. And do you think that that's why British comedy is so successful international? Because if you think of so the Six Idiots that technically aren't called Six Idiots apparently, but everyone calls them Six Idiots, and I do
yeah,
on a Six Idiots based podcast about them. They have this sort of thing that they're universal, not just if you find 20 fans, some of them might not be British. And do you think that that's why British comedy is so successful because it can transcend the world of it and then develop into, as we say, other international versions of the formats?
Definitely. We've seen examples of it time and time again. I mean, it's still happening now with ghosts.
Yeah,
There's different versions of ghosts getting made all over the
yeah,
world. But I think that core humor, yeah, I think there's nothing like a British sense of humor, and it used to be really prided. It used to be a really big point of
yeah,
pride for British people. The thing is, as well as beyond that, though, there's so many niches within it. There's a very different Scottish sense of
yeah,
humor, for example. It can sometimes run a bit darker, and but there's and a bit weirder. I mean, look at Limmy, but
yeah,
Limmy
yeah,
has a massive international
yeah,
following on Twitch. So
yeah.
it just goes to, yeah, it like
Oh,
in all elements,
yeah, it,
yeah, that core Britishness. I don't know if
yeah,
it's the sometimes it's the deadpan nature of
yeah,
it. I think with Limmy, it's his facial work, his
yeah,
reaction to things is incredible, and that does transcend
yeah,
language. And I think, yeah, the way that we've always approached physical comedy as
yeah,
well transcends language.
yeah,
But I think, yeah, there must be something about the delivery
yeah.
that it can transcend, yeah, a language barrier.
And
And yeah, there always has been something very special about British humor, and I think that will continue to be the case as long as we continue to not take ourselves too seriously.
yeah, and you mentioned Lemon. I'll briefly say that, but it's
Yeah.
I think one of the greatest clips that circled around in Twitch stuff was him being really angry at how absurd In the Night Garden was. And it's his takedown of it,
Yeah.
and it's the fact that he watched it with his kids, and it's the fact that he couldn't grasp. And he
Yeah.
was being so awful about like the ninky Uncle like saying that he was so angry and it's even though he's not on TV anymore spouting this thing in a comical fashion, he's still
Mm,
online going, this is ridiculous. And you can watch that clip over and over again and go, that
yeah.
makes sense. Or him taking down Cella Black thinking it really is that what people are really watching? But then you turn it on and go, I can see why people are watching it, and that's
Yeah.
what works about online is that you can have all your traditional sketches and they're really funny, but then in the online world of live stuff, you can have all this absurdity. It's like, as I mentioned before, Ben Rufus Green does a thing called Washing Up Club every Sunday,
Right.
and the bloke called Daniel Reed, who's known online as Eyes and Legs, that did he remixed and added music to Slender People by Bob Mortimer and does all the Chatterbix jingles and
Okay.
whatnot. And so he created the theme tune for Washing Up Club. And it really is just Ben Rifkin in his kitchen washing. You watch him wash plates, pots, recycling, talking about which vegan food he likes. And he has arguments with other actors that are in the chat trying to say that I've had more self-tips than you this week, and he gets really jealous quite easily. And it adds to the comedy because obviously everyone knows that it's more funnier if we just make him more angry in
Yeah.
that sense. And do you think that that's why online comedy is going to stick around even longer than if TV comedy fades out? Do you think that that's why the online world will still have its comedy?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the processes are just so different, and I think much as I would love to see Limmy on TV again, in a way,
Yeah,
he is better off on Twitch than he ever would be on
yeah,
TV because there is a level of authenticity that he brings and the live stuff and not having to worry about rewrites or
yeah,
anyone else it all kind of comes together in that way in a way that I think online is the best next
yeah,
step from live,
yeah,
like live stand up, improv shows, things like that, where anything can happen, anything is off the cuff, and it's pure in the moment reaction, which can get massive
mm,
laughs
yeah,
and often gets bigger laughs than something that has been written and rewritten and rewritten again. Um, it's just the nature of comedy. And so, yeah, these online live formats definitely aren't going
yeah,
anywhere when it comes to comedy. I
yeah,
know a lot of comedians that are on Twitch, and it's a natural coming together of a lot of their interests.
yeah,
And they will produce these viral moments that will then be shared.
yeah,
It's just a very
yeah,
natural thing. Yeah, on and if it comes to something that's a bit more written, or the sketches online.
yeah,
Again, there isn't that interference of it's entirely your own creative
yeah,
instincts of how
yeah,
you grow a
yeah,
following. It's you've not got anyone helping you along the way until you get to a certain level and
yeah,
then things change. But when you're first starting out, it's a, well, I think this is funny.
yeah,
I'm going to write about it. And it's that pure and that simple.
yeah,
And I think it's a lot of the time it helps a lot of people that don't necessarily want to or have the interest in doing live or growing
yeah,
that way. It should be seen as a very viable alternative.
yeah.
I think absolutely.
Yeah. And now one of the things you've worked on that
Mm.
I would say is fascinating because it doesn't seem it came out of the blue is the word I'm going to use. It came out of the blue over the fact that it wasn't I didn't really hear about it before. When it did turn up, I thought that's really fascinating because it's like beyond the realm. It's like if you watch, I don't know, a sitcom on TV, but they don't advertise it, and you really love it in the end, and you get really into it. It's a similar thing where it's like you're unaware of it. Once you find it, you know it's brilliant. And I
Mhm.
probably, because I've never tried to say it out loud, but I'm probably going to pronounce it wrong. But what was it like working on the Treason TV show? As I've probably mispronounced that horrendously.
No, Trees and TV show. Yeah, perfect. Um, Again, that was an amazing opportunity. It's the strangest thing of talking about when I first started because
Yeah,
I got my first credit on Newsjack
yeah,
in October 2019. What I will say, one thing is that it meant I was furloughed, and I had so much time,
yeah,
and all there was to do was write. And the special thing about the Treason TV show is that it was entirely off the creator and performer Mark's back because
yeah,
normally that is a live show in Brighton.
yeah,
That is, and I believe it still happens. That is still a live show in Brighton,
yeah,
and so it's an amazing live sketch show with impersonations, with songs.
yeah,
It had to go online
yeah,
in order to have any sort of iteration, and it's far from the only thing.
yeah,
Stand up started doing Zoom stuff. I did a wee bit of improv that was on Zoom.
yeah,
Realized I really didn't like it. There are things that need to be live,
yeah,
unfortunately, but a lot of shows really managed to translate without an audience
yeah,
necessarily. It was a strange thing with breaking the news where they didn't
yeah,
have an audience for a while, and it actually really worked. And it
yeah,
was quite a different. It was almost like a chat show rather than a panel show. It
yeah,
was really interesting without an audience. Different, but in a good way. And with the Trees and TV show, again, that opened up so many opportunities
yeah,
for newer writers to, yeah, to submit
yeah,
to submit sketches, to
yeah,
submit one-liners, because similar to Dead Ringers, they had a presenter character that you could get the gags on for. So even if you weren't a sketch writer, you were just a joke writer. It did amazing work there. And yeah, the it was, yeah, if anything, because well, I mean, obviously Piers Morgan proved himself wrong, but there is a space on YouTube
yeah,
and online for the creation of a sketch show like that.
yeah, yeah,
And so yeah, it helped grow skills again. And
yeah,
it was News Review did a similar thing. So News Review is obviously a topical live show that
yeah,
in London that have writers, and they kind of they turned it into a podcast and they opened up to writers, which we me and my writing partner Alex also did.
mm,
And it was, yeah, so the topical stuff was going, the topical live stuff was
yeah,
going online, and it really it did bring a lot of opportunities. And then unfortunately when they went live again, the opportunities weren't there as
yeah,
much. The Treason show still opened up to writers, which I think was really important, but they weren't recording the live
yeah,
shows, so the writers never got to see their stuff get made or see the kind of stuff that was getting put on. And
yeah,
because that's always a key way of learning.
yeah,
When you're starting out, you go and see these shows get performed, you're able to see a
yeah,
final result. And so unfortunately it kind of cut out quite a key process for newer writers, just by the fact that it was going live again.
yeah,
And obviously that is down to Mark and the performers. I think they always preferred the live format and the energy of the room. So you can understand why these periods were just necessary rather than something they were actually that actually came as an organic idea or something that they were wanting to pursue
yeah,
long term. But for that really nice wee period,
yeah,
it was a fantastic show.
yeah,
And it meant that because it was on YouTube, you could direct people to the
yeah,
sketches, things like that. So it was, and it's been very valuable for writers before that. And I do, Mark told us one time that Josh Widdicombe had written for it back in the day because
wow,
he was in Brighton.
yeah,
So it still has so much value for newer
yeah,
writers and for satire. It's just a bit more localized
yeah,
again in the
yeah.
way that everything kind of has become again. But yeah, great show. Loved it.
And as we work down this non-existent pipeline that really should end, someone, Tim Vine probably will end up making a pipeline prop,
I hope so.
because he's the one that can make the props. If I had that skill, I would have done it by now. Because I do think that's a comical idea.
Yeah, I love
And
the idea of you just bringing it up every
yeah,
now and then, just and then just
uh,
putting it back down after you've seen it in the
yeah,
pipeline. I
yeah.
love that.
Um, and so as we come down the slippery slopes, as we call towards the end of this comical, fascinating, and insightful interview, with the news that SNL UK is happening, an official version this time, other than where we attempted it last time, but it wasn't really connected to the show,
Yeah.
so you technically couldn't call it a remake or a international version. You could call it a homage, if you will.
Yes.
Do you think that SNL Saturday Night Live, for anyone that's unaware, the documentary about Saturday Night Live is fantastic, but the show itself isn't for me. But I love
Yeah.
the documentary. Marina Hyde is a similar woman on this one. She doesn't
Mm.
like Saturday Night Live, but she loved the documentary.
They
And
were fascinating. I
yeah,
will say I am a fan of Saturday Night Live
yeah,
and I have been for a long
yeah,
time. But yeah, the insights into the writers'
it
rooms
was
and stuff,
incredible. So
absolutely fascinating.
So with news of it coming, do you? Because I was just thinking, I've been thinking about this as you've been speaking, and
Mm.
it's been really interesting. But do you think that Saturday Night Live would in the UK would benefit from having it being open submission? Because I think that because it's on a live format, do you think they would work to make sure that not only are they showcasing new writers in the room, but also hunting for other new writers because they're giving them a chance to write a sketch?
Yeah, it's a really interesting one. I think, oh, that's such a good question because I do and I don't.
Yeah,
To be perfectly honest, in an ideal world, yes. Sorry, that was such a delayed response. My brain's not working there. I think, as you say, there's been homage versions and there's been previous iterations of late night formats and things
yeah,
like that. I don't think, knowing again the insights that we get on
yeah.
that documentary, I don't think Lorne Michaels would ever allow that to happen.
Yeah, yeah,
That man seems like an
yeah,
absolute control freak, but obviously
yeah,
I brackets positive
yeah,
because he
yeah,
would not be able to have created what he has
yeah,
in a
yeah,
live format
yeah,
if he didn't have that eye for detail, if he
yeah,
didn't run such a tight ship, it wouldn't be
yeah,
Saturday Night Live wouldn't be what it is. I genuinely mean that
yeah,
in a positive way.
yeah,
But as a result of that, there is no chance that he
yeah,
would leave the script up to that many
yeah,
variables. I just don't think it would be
yeah,
possible at all. Um, and if anything, there shouldn't have to exist a show like Saturday Night Live
yeah,
UK for, as you're saying, for a more open submission or for a newer writer's room.
yeah,
But I think it does go back to what I said earlier about how there is just the aversion to people that are less
yeah,
tested when there's big money behind it,
yeah,
unfortunately. And that is why radio lends itself more naturally to it. I
yeah,
think what I'm hoping to see from Saturday Night Live UK is a vehicle for more mid level people. So
yeah,
people that have thrived in their own format and have, because I think, and sorry, and have that
yeah,
following, but don't have that mainstream success.
yeah,
Because I think, again, going back to the comedy nerds in us,
yeah,
we can often think of certain people in comedy as very successful,
yeah,
and then we'll talk to a person that isn't in the industry or
yeah,
isn't as obsessed with comedy and newer comedy as you, and they have no idea who
yeah,
that person is
yeah,
because they've not been on ITV, they've not
yeah,
presented their own show. There's a whole nother level.
yeah,
And I think a lot of people find themselves having very comfortable careers, managing to make a living in
yeah,
this middle tier,
yeah,
but they are good enough to be this
yeah,
successful.
yeah,
And I
and
would say that if anything, sad, but it can be quite difficult to break
yeah,
into that
yeah,
because we'll not name any names, but certain people just get given all of the shows and
yeah,
all of the guest spots
yeah,
and all of the commissions because
yeah,
they've proved themselves
yeah,
whatever they're a reliable name. So
yeah,
we will see them again, again, and
yeah,
again rather than selecting from this middle pool.
yeah,
So my genuine hope is I want it to be good. I want it to
yeah,
be so, so good. And I want it to provide an opportunity for those mid-career
yeah,
people who are amazing at what
yeah,
they do and have been chosen because they're amazing at what they do, be that writers, be that performers,
mm,
whatever,
yeah,
even costume people, I hope.
yeah,
Um, and they have that kind of platform that will then catapult them into an area that I think that they deserve to be in.
yeah,
That's my genuine hope for Saturday Night Live
yeah,
UK. That's what I hope to see. And what I also hope to see is more shows for newer writers to
yeah,
put that pipeline together.
yeah,
Because yeah, I think if you're working in this industry, especially, you get so focused on where you are, quite
mm,
rightly. So you're focusing on that little bit of the pipe of how do I
yeah,
get to the next bit of the pipe.
yeah,
But there are people already in that end of the pipe wondering how they get into that
yeah,
next level of the pipe. And there are people further along that can see a tunnel of light
yeah,
and want to know how to get to that light.
yeah,
And so yeah, it is a full pipeline,
yeah,
and there should be different formats for different people in
yeah,
various stages,
yeah.
basically. Yeah.
And you mentioned there having people that had really success on stage. I think that the sketch group I can think of that would really that they had a pilot on BBC Three that didn't go any further, but I think I can sort of see why it didn't go any further because I think they thrive more in a live setting. I think if you
Mm,
watch them live, that was sort of like a little bit too out of their sort of
mm,
comfort zone. I mean, it was still good and
mm.
it's still brilliant, but I can see why.
Yeah.
It's Britney. It's the sketch group Britney.
Yes.
I think they would because I'm not stereotyping the type of person that does Saturday Night Live, but they seem to be from the outside the exact people that Saturday Night Live needs. Even
Yeah.
though I know that, and I can't remember which one because I realised I know that one of them's going out with Catherine Boham, but for ages I thought it was another person. When I found it was the other one, I got
Oh,
slightly confused. So now I don't know who's who anymore. But
right.
one of them is a successful actor in their own right outside of Brittany, and if I'm not mistaken, they were on the Lazarus Project on the Sky, and I might be wrong on that one. I might be thinking of someone
Okay.
else. But I think that they would work really well on Saturday Night Live. They
Yeah.
will be the right people for it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's gonna, yeah, I think the live format specifically
Yeah.
is, as you say, is going to be really interesting
Mm.
because, I mean, obviously we're still waiting to hear about the cast announcements and
Yeah.
things like that. But yeah, I would also really like to
Yeah.
see, sorry, um, yeah, people that have thrived in that
Yeah.
live environment. I think it's got to be a good mix,
Yeah.
which and that's what the US version often brings. So I don't doubt that there will be a good mix of people
Yeah.
experienced with live stuff, whether that be through
Yeah.
stand up or live sketch,
Yeah.
and then yeah, people that have different backgrounds coming together. I think a really important thing that it's going to need is to not be a carbon copy and
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
room to be its own thing and room
Yeah.
to, as we were saying about, the remakes and things like that,
Yeah.
the room to be British
Mm.
rather than being just Saturday Night Live
Yeah.
with UK people. But
Yeah.
I think the talent selected should really help with that.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to it and waiting and seeing.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think just the fact that there is an appetite for that
Yeah. Yeah.
massive budget
Yeah.
sketch show, even if similarly to the Mitchell and Webb, even if it does have to come through the name of an established IP or
Yeah.
something that does have a track record, if it can be a vehicle
Yeah.
for newer or mid-tier people, I'm all for it. I
Yeah.
think it's great, and I think we need more of it.
Yeah, and as we come towards the end of this, and I like to make it clear that the Saturday Night documentary is fantastic, but the film Saturday Night, I felt like he did nothing. As in, literally, I watched it and thought nothing really happened. There was just a lot of running around. It wasn't really structured. I know this isn't the place to do this, but it wasn't a lot of structure to it. If
Mm,
you had transferred what the documentary gave into the film, that would have been a
yeah,
lot better. For me, all I can picture back of it is just a blur of one person panicking thing. There's only a few running around and not really much happening, and it not really feeling like a
interesting.
film.
Yeah, I never saw it, and I'll be honest, I
Yeah,
probably won't watch it now after you've
yeah,
said
yes,
that.
yeah.
Yeah,
It
it
was a
sounds like a film
mistake.
version of what it's like to be on coke and working for Saturday Night
Yeah,
Live. Yeah.
Jim Henson was in it for 4 seconds. Not the actual
Oh,
Jim Henson. He was in it for 4 seconds. They went, "Oh no, sorry, we can't do you. We're gonna have to cut you. Bye 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 bye." And they walk off and they walk off and he stood. Whoever's playing him just stood there with a puppet in their hand, not doing anything. And it's
that's so
like,
strange. Yeah.
yeah, and the last thing I'll say on Saturday Night Live is that when you hear the word, this is very niche, this, but when you hear the word Lorne Michaels, he sounds really scary. He sounds as scary as Lou Grade, um, both people who were in high power. They
Yeah.
seem like very scary people. When I picture them in really old and really stickler for the rules, they just seem really scary. He probably isn't as scary as he sounds, but
Oh, I think he might be.
yeah,
I think
but
he might be.
apparently Seth Meyers, who that's another issue for another day, which I'll probably make a whole another thing about. He's apparently has some involvement somewhere with the UK version, and then he's been in
Oh,
the room. He's been because he came over to do some promoting of something, but he then entered the office just to end because I think Lorne Michaels is hanging around here for a while whilst this is
yeah.
happening. So I think that Seth Meyers came to go, well, I've written on the show. I'm sort of know what's going on, and he's there just to be the probably the expert from that side of it. Whereas
Mm,
obviously Lorne Michaels is the head honcho, if you will. Uh,
yeah, yeah. Oh,
and
that's really interesting.
so hopefully it's a success, and I definitely will attempt to watch it live on the first night because I really am curious to see what they do. Hopefully the first musical act is Black Layer singing Agadu. Um, because
Very British.
that would be incredible. So, as we draw towards the end of this interview, I know that in the industry, and I know that it's happens now more than it's ever happened in its history. I know that like every project known to man has got an NDA. Even apparently the new Muppet show's under embargo, so no one can talk about it until next week, apparently. Even though it's out on Wednesday, so I know it
Yeah.
happens all the time. What projects have you got upcoming that you're excited for the public to either see, hear, or read?
Ooh, that's really interesting. Um, yeah, there's a whole bunch of stuff at the minute. I think so the stage in my career that I'm at the moment, I obviously have all the additional material shows that I get to work on in the
Yeah,
sketch shows, and then I'm developing my own stuff, like my original stuff
yeah.
behind the scenes as well. Obviously, it's very boring to say. I'm not really allowed to talk about that.
Yeah,
I know it's so boring, and the
NDAs.
thing is, so it's stuff for both radio and TV.
Yeah,
With TV, the development phase can take a really long
yeah,
time. So I would say I'm excited for people to see it. Don't know when that will happen.
yeah, yeah,
But yeah, so there's kind of various comedy TV projects
yeah,
that I'm kind of working on in development at the moment, which is really exciting.
yeah,
I guess I think the things I'm most excited about at the moment are actually in the live scene.
yeah,
I'm kind of working on a lot more live stuff. So I've been working on a live sketch show in Edinburgh. It's called Story Platform,
wow,
which is an amazing. It is Saturday Night Live style.
yeah,
So Monday to Friday, we pitch, write, and produce a
yeah,
live hour.
wow,
Yeah, from Monday to Friday. So I'm only in half of the shows of this run, so there's still two left. So
mm,
anyone around Edinburgh should definitely go and check out Story Platform. It's the last Friday of every month.
wow,
I won't be in the next one, but I'll be in the one in
yeah,
March, which yeah, very much looking forward to. And I'm also very much looking forward to the Glasgow Comedy Festival. I'm sorry, this is so niche to Scotland, but that's very, very true to me.
We love Scotland.
We do, we absolutely
Yeah,
do. And
yeah,
the more shout outs for Scotland, the better.
yeah,
Yeah, the Glasgow International Comedy Festival is coming up in March. And I think as newer comedy festivals go,
yeah,
it's an amazing showcase for more local talent.
yeah,
Edinburgh's become so big that
yeah,
unfortunately Scottish talent does sometimes get lost in the mix. And
yeah,
so it's really great at championing local talent and also people are doing amazing works in progress. I'm directing one of the shows, my friend Jade's show, and so I'm really excited for people to see that.
yeah,
And just anyone else that's going to
yeah,
be at Glasgow Comedy Festival.
yeah.
So I know that that's probably not as juicy of an answer, but that's what I'm excited for people to see soon.
Well, we love recognition for comedy festivals, as most people will gather. I have an interview series on my comedy club channel called One Comedian, Eight Questions, where it's all about helping promote their Edinburgh Fringe show. So I only do it in the August, so that we've got a wheel, and it's like most of the questions are skewed towards Edinburgh. And even if the wheel doesn't choose anything about their show, we still talk about it anyway.
Yeah.
It's mandatory. Because it's there to promote their work, not just their career in general, but their shows that they're doing currently. Now,
Brilliant.
without giving away your home address, where can people track you down online?
Um, I think yeah, my main thing at the moment is Instagram. It's a strange thing as a writer because I don't really perform a whole lot. I do a little bit here and there, and so my main kind of thing is Instagram. So that's it's Beakachu42, Beakachu. And feel free to follow me on there. That would be lovely. But it's yeah, the online vehicles are becoming fewer and further
Yeah,
between, unfortunately, since the downfall of Twitter. I am on Blue Sky. Cannot remember what my thing is.
yeah,
Because I'm barely on it, and I think eventually I'll get into Substack, but I'm not there yet.
yeah,
So
yeah.
my that's where you can find me if you're interested. It would be lovely to have you.
And so there we have it. Another extraordinary dictionary defining interview. Are my extraordinary words doing the dictionary a clue to be a secret genius? No, that's a very corny joke to do with Susie Dent. Um, obviously the jokes get worse and worse as I speak. So join the ride. So thank you guys for watching. And remember, no, I've forgotten.